Hi, and welcome to the Little Bite of Everything podcast.
This podcast is for foodies, life enthusiasts, creatives, deep thinkers, you name it.
We believe in the power of insightful conversations. So, let's bite down on diverse topics, discussing our personal perspectives and experience. What are we waiting for?
Let's dig in. Hey guys, Maribel here. I just wanted to give you guys thanks for joining us on this second part to our episode on reflecting on prejudice. In this episode, we kind of explore a little more about being foreigners in different countries and our experiences with that. It's not that serious of an episode, so please have fun. Grab some popcorn. It's a fun one as we get into our foodie segment. We really appreciate and hope that you really enjoy this one. All right, guys. See you at the end. Bye.
So the last question is, what is it like to be a foreigner in another country? Do they treat you differently because of your race? Damn, this question is designed for me. So a little bit about myself. I was born and raised in China. And I study abroad. I started studying abroad when I was 18, 17, pretty much college. And then I went to ASU. That's where I met everyone there. And then I pretty much continued my studying. I did my master in Canada, so I moved to another country. And now I'm working in Canada. So that's a little bit about myself. Well, I think... Again, like I kind of briefly mentioned, growing up, I didn't really get too exposed to a lot of cultures. I mean, China is a very diverse country as well. We have a lot of like cultures in there, but in terms of, certain cultures, like we've been talking about, I didn't really get to experience them. I mean, pretty much just watch them on the news, on TV, that kind of thing. But going to college, studying in the States is where I really like experienced it myself. And one thing I felt like the most when I moved to the States was I'm no longer a Chinese anymore. I am an Asian here. So I'm representing the bigger group in here because when people look at you, they won't really say, hey, are you a Chinese? They will just immediately identify you as Asian. So whatever you do is not really, I would just, empower myself thinking, oh, here I'm representing China. I'm a Chinese. But there's not only that. I'm representing the whole group of Asian. Unless they get closer to me, they know, okay, I'm Chinese. Then that's where, we'll talk about more stuff about that. But just, in day-to-day life, just in general, people think of me an Asian. I'm like so empowered. I'm representing a whole lot of people. So that's something that I feel proud of, that I can do that I can, get to expand my culture, like the Asian culture in general. So that's something that I feel like was kind of fun. And I never really expected in my life. It's kind of an experience that I would share with others.
I think it's so interesting that you felt like, you represented a whole group rather than just like your nationality and your ethnicity, like where you come from. That's so cool. That's interesting. Because like when I actually met you, now I'm analyzing like what I thought. I honestly didn't think you were foreign exchange from China.
Oh, because your English is so good.
Yeah, I'm like, this girl grew up in either California or Arizona. She was brought up like America, like Asian American. I seriously thought that. But then like getting to know you, obviously you like pick up on things, and like when the more conversations that we had, I was just like, oh, cool. Like you're from China. I'm like, what? Because like we also met
from China.
Originally from China. Sorry, did I say something weird or wrong? But like we met other friends that like I had other friends from that China also that it was just a little different. Like they didn't, I don't know. I feel like you were a little more open. It's your personality, it's who you are too. Um, but yeah, I thought
Thank
this
you.
is really just like different. So I think that's funny that you say it and the way that I perceived you and like I guess it's true. I was just like, oh, she's Asian. Not
Yeah,
like she's Chinese, but
that's
I think you get to know that better with time too.
yeah, that's literally what I thought about, or like what I kind of get involved into myself when I get into this environment and then start to like studying abroad, because I think if you really want to talk about it on a very big scale, then I'm just representing all the Asians that like Asian, not like Asian American.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like to talk to people like, hey, I'm not an Asian American, or sorry, I'm not Asian American, yeah, or Chinese American or Chinese Canadian. I'm Chinese. But that's just for a joke. But I think everyone talking about study abroad, like Maribel had a study abroad experience, but for me in general, I guess everyone has different approach, but for me, I like to just, open myself to everything that I can ever experience in this journey, because let's just to be honest, it was a pricey journey. And then it takes a lot of encouragement and brave, like pretty much you're putting yourself alone in another land, and then you might not really know their language well. So that's a lot of things to expect, or a lot of things would happen and predictably. So I really just I guess my approach was just put myself in a local shoes. Like I want myself to be a local. So I just there's I have to be honest, there's a grace period where I wanted myself to pretend to be American or like a local people, so that, I can feel more connected, that I challenge, language wise or like behavior wise, that kind of thing. But in the end of the day, I just realized, no, that's not what I'm happy about. I'm just myself. I learn what I can learn. I'm representing my culture, and still has the mission of breaking people's stereotype of Chinese,
Mm-hmm.
that kind of thing. Yeah, I think everyone kind of will go through that kind of grace periods, and that's what I kind of gone through and I learned from it. It's really, I think, important phase to kind of overcome. And speaking of, I guess, stereotype, just going back to the question, there's a lot of times, I guess, when people get to know me, knowing I'm Chinese, they will start asking me a lot of questions about China. And, I have to be honest, I've experienced some people ask me questions about like really detailed question about China. With the fact that I know they don't know much about it. Some people just like to ask certain questions to make them kind of sound smart.
Mm-hmm.
Like people would ask me, "Hey, do you know about China's poverty rate, or what do you think about China's economic development, or what do you see that?" I mean, I can talk about it in very in depth because I lived there for the past 18 or 17 years, but I don't think that's what you expect. You just want me to prove what you thought about is correct, but which is actually not. If I really like criticize you, and you're probably gonna get upset, and I don't know what you're gonna think about, and add maybe more layers of stereotypes on that group of people. So I don't know what should I tell you, but
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of something that I experienced, and I don't know what to respond, and like I can't just the second that they ask that question, I kind of know the whole backstory of why they're asking that kind of question.
Yeah. No, and I completely get that. I kind of could relate to that too, because while I was in Korea, I had another foreign exchange student, like a fellow student, ask me about DACA, because like that's when the whole Dreamers Act, everything was coming down here during, I think it was 2017. Trump administration had like was like they were changing a couple things at the time, and he was asking me all this information. I was like, I really can't give you like straight facts, because like as the information is coming out, I'm learning about it too. I'm like, I'm not a DACA student, so I'm not like the best like informed on it, but I'm like, he's like, oh, it's because I'm DACA, and I'm like, oh, okay. Well, I'm like, yeah, we should definitely look like into it, both of us, because I had no idea, but I think it was important, and I did learn a little bit about what happened. But it's just like, I personally like to ask questions out of curiosity, like things that come up in conversation. I know that I've shared like I've asked April a couple things, just like food culturally wise, and then she's brought up some things that I think are so cool. I'm like, how did you get that opportunity? Let me know like what happened, what you saw, show me pictures. Just because I think those are like things that I've never experienced, but I'm very curious to learn more about. So and I did have that experience with some people. I remember I had one of the most culturally diverse cab drivers in Korea once, and he like talked to me about boxing, tacos, Mexico, just like Mexico, because I told him, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm American, but like my parents are from Mexico. So that was like, he just was fascinated. He had like this energy that I was just like, this is the type of person I like to talk about like culture with. So I get the whole like, it just really depends what person you're talking to, and how open they are to it. So yeah.
I mean, that's fine because we're friends, right? We're pretty close. Like, I will literally show you everything that I've experienced in when I was in China, and then just makes you feel like you're literally standing on the Chinese streets, ordering street food. That's fine.
Yeah.
But you can't just the first time you hear I'm a Chinese and you come straight to me like, hey, what do you think about economy in China?
Yeah.
That's
I
just,
get it.
do you ask that question? What do you think about American economy development to a like 17 American? Would they give you, what do you expect from their answer, right?
Yeah,
I think
for
the
sure.
same thing. Yeah, I don't think that's a very friendly approach. I just put it that way. Yeah, yeah, but that's fine. I think I appreciate people's like they want to get to know your culture, but I think there's a proper way to approach to people in different culture, and people will get appreciated if you approach them in a proper way. And I think a lot of times I also do feel like, being a foreigner in another country, I think another very important thing that I do want to highlight here is they don't want to be treated differently. Like, you don't need to knowing that they're a foreigner, they're coming from different countries, they're studying abroad, so you kind of, I don't know, slow down your English, or just put a simple words there so that to help them understand. You don't need to do that. They've came a long way to where they are. They've definitely full of capable of, doing everything that they want to do in here. So that's something I do want to highlight, because that's something that I experienced here and there a little bit. And overall, I think I encourage everyone to experience other culture. Again, the idea is to experience it by seeing it, not hearing it from other, and then you will get to know a lot more about that culture if you're doing that way.
Yeah, fact check yourself. And it's like you're saying, yeah, experience it for yourself, know what you're like missing out. And like the like most frightening thing, this person that you want to learn more about like will not like shoot you down or like say something terrible. They most likely will share their experience with you, which will make you more knowledgeable and more understanding from like where they come from. So yeah, don't be scared, don't be shy, learn, educate yourself. And I think that's the way that we can grow, just learning about other people, breaking down those stereotypes and just prejudices that we possibly had growing up. I think that's important. So, yeah, yeah. We also wanted to bring up like one last point, and it's basically the increasing rate of hate crimes in America. In just like the place that you are at, maybe you see some more than others. I know that in Arizona, in the last 2 years, it has been rising quite at a frightening rate, and it's usually targeted against African Americans, Latinos, and Asian communities, and more so in Asian communities. We have been seeing that. I know that a couple months back, Carol had shared with me about how a lot of elder people, and there was a specific story of an elder woman that had been set on fire. And that really broke my heart. And I know that there's so many other cases that are just so sad, and they're like, it's just so hard to understand that living in such an, I want to say like progressive and advanced like times, we still hear about these things and they're happening. So yeah, we just wanted to bring up this just like awareness, just so you could know that these things are happening around us and we have to correct that. And I think a big part of that is through education. We should be more knowledgeable of these things so we can help others understand, like, hey, these things are not okay. Like, why is this happening? Do you guys have any thoughts on that?
And I also think that we're at a point where, because we have like all these social media networks, there's not really a reason for people to not know about it. I feel like it is important to be educated about the current events and what's happening to prevent it from happening. So I think people should just keep up to date about like the current events. And I think education, like you said, is a very big part to kind of preventing this from happening. If it doesn't prevent it from happening, it can like, at least people will know about it, and people will be more aware.
Yeah, it definitely also comes down to like the communities and the more impact that we have on different communities. Because like I know growing up, like I grew up in a very impoverished community, but like with time, obviously we have grown out of that. But I still go back to like helping different communities, like because I know how it's like to grow up poor, and I know the mentality, especially from a small town. So just like going back to those communities and educating them is something so big, because I know that someone did that for me at one point, and I'm very thankful for that. I don't really talk about that, and my parents are like you're not poor. I'm like, but we grew up poor. That's a fact of things, that my parents were immigrants from Mexico. They came to this country with essentially nothing. They built their lives, our lives, just for us to have a better future. And I think that it comes to like a certain level of privilege. Some of us sometimes say like, oh, like people should know how to behave, but some people are so close-minded, so small-minded because of the environment that they grew up in, that they don't know how to do that. They haven't been like educated. So I think that's really important too, like just to avoid situations like this. It's like opening people to knowing more. And I feel like I'm like that person that's like, can we all be friends? Can we just hug it out and just like love each other? But I feel like that's a very personal thing to me. Like, I wish the world was great and everybody thought like I did. But it's not like that. A lot of people are going to have like that bitter resentment of certain like experiences that they had with people. And that is what like fuels their hate and these crimes. But yeah, that's the sad part, that we just have to help so situations like this don't happen. And just like educate. I think education is the key, has so much power. um, but yeah, I'm so passionate about it. Sorry.
And then I think, within a community, you don't really need to do so much to help out. It's just like very little things that you can do to really, it will help the entire community in a very big part. So I think that's the message that we should spread out to people. Is not thinking about like you're gonna save the whole world or that kind of thing. It is very little thing, very handy thing that you can do to help out.
Yeah, if everyone like works together, then it makes a big
Yeah.
impact. Even though you're like a small part of it, but you're a part of like a bigger part.
Yeah, it's like a, what is it called? Like a butterfly effect.
Yeah.
Has a very little small movement can really make a big impact.
Yeah. Or domino effect too. One person can lead to another, and that other person can lead to another. So it's very, yeah, it makes sense. So, yeah, guys, we just wanted to shed some light on everything that's happening right now. And if you guys have any other like comments about that, please share with us in the comments below, or reach out to us if you have a story you want to share. I know that this is a platform that we have, and if you want your story to be shared or like heard, yeah, let us know. Send us an email or let us know in our DMs, comments, anything. Just let us know.
Fired it away.
Yeah. All right. So moving on to our foodie segment of the podcast, we kind of just wanted to talk about food culture, favorite foods, kind of like leave it open to just share a little bit about our favorite foods, and or like things that we were exposed to that we didn't expect were going to become our favorite foods. I don't know. Who wants to take it away?
So I do have favorite foods, and that's plural.
Same.
With many S's. But to say food culture, I'm excited to see that Arizona's food culture is growing in sense of it's a little more diverse. People are bringing their culture foods here. And also, as we are growing up now, we are more interested in trying new cultures and new foods. Because back then, it was all about the Mickey D's and the toys. So I still do like my toys. But
have you seen the Pokemon? Like the craze and the Happy
oh my
Meals?
gosh, Cindy
My brother ordered 3 Happy Meals.
Oh,
I am so bitter because we went and they gave us some stupid Twister toy because there was no more. And I was just like, ugh, okay.
He
Oh
like
my
came
gosh.
home and he's like, look at all my Pokemon cards.
Yeah, they're so cool.
This is so I first was bought like a Happy Meal when I was in first grade, and that was because like my teacher would like if you have like if you do something good for that whole week and you get enough stars and whatnot, and you get chosen to go on basically a lunch break. So all the students go to lunch in the cafeteria, and you and one more student get chosen to be taken to McDonald's. And so I was chosen for that one week that they had Pokemon. And this is when Pokemon, like, it was legit cool. Like, yeah. And I was into it. And the gift inside that Happy Meal was actually a Pokeball. a chrome, like a red chrome Pokeball, like original, and you can pop it open, and inside is a gold medallion kind of like a Poke card, you know, like a Pokemon card.
Yeah.
And that was legit like, yeah, click the button and it popped open like a Pokeball. And I was just like, ah! And then, of course, eating my chicken nuggets was great, and French fries and everything else. But, you know, like, but now we're like stepping away from that, and let's go back to food.
Yes.
You still haven't told us your favorite food.
I know I haven't told you my favorite because there's
Boba.
too many. I can't. It depends on what I feel and what I'm craving.
Mm-hmm.
So
What about like an impressionable food that you're like, whoa, I tried this and it became a favorite food?
I if I'm going to be recent and just say something like my trip to Korea and the food that I ate there, there was something called acorn jelly.
Corn
And
jelly.
yes, so it's like and they like cooked it with some greens and the spicy, you know, gochujang and everything. So it's kind of like a spicy version.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I wasn't really open to the idea because I have like certain textures of food I cannot eat.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them is sea cucumber.
Again with the sea cucumber.
That sea cucumber. I don't know. Maybe in a couple more years when I'm a little older and, you know, bones aching and everything a little bit more than what I have now, I will
Guys, I don't know
feel.
what sea cucumber is.
You have to look it up. Yeah, so that's one of the foods that I like. And then I came back here, and then there was a restaurant that had something similar. Not Korean, but it was Chinese.
All right. I guess I could share a little bit about my favorite cuisine. Or like Carol said, I too love food, so I don't have one specific. But recently, or not so recently, I love just like anything that, like, I love matcha. However, 3 years ago, I did not love matcha because I had not been exposed to it. And I guess like it's a very acquired flavor and taste. And until you have good matcha, you don't like matcha. That's my philosophy. If you've never had good matcha, you don't like matcha. Um, like growing up a small town, very southern place in Arizona, we literally had one boba shop, and it was the what do you call it? It was this
Popular version?
it was this islander food place. It was a Hawaiian food shop with bomb katsu. Their katsu was bomb. However, they had boba, and it was so like that was my first experience ever with boba. I wanted to try Asian food. However, this small town didn't really have any. But I was kind of low-key disappointed. It was good for what it was. However, growing up, just experiencing, coming to the city, trying new things, I even think like being like in 2014, 2015, we didn't have as many Asian places like in Arizona, in Mesa, Phoenix, Tempe, like we do now.
Yeah,
Like
like
now we have so many.
like the boba places didn't really open up until like I want to say like 3 years ago.
Yeah, we were probably
Towards
juniors in
our,
college, I
yeah,
think.
Yeah, and they just like started like popping up
Yeah.
everywhere.
Yeah, you had Dayang, you had Miss Dessert, you had so many great places. You had obviously like
their
Kung
boba
Fu
dates.
Tea. I know we had boba dates. I actually still have the picture of us where we like sent April off and we were at Dayang. I'm
Oh
like, I
yeah.
freaking love Dayang because we have memories there. um but yeah, I became really into like I guess more Asian flavors, but I love Hawaiian food, like islander foods.
Pokeball.
Yeah. Like anything that's like either fresh fish or like katsu, I became obsessed with when I was in Korea. I know like a lot of my family doesn't like seafood. Um, However, when I was in Korea, I had some of the best sashimi in my life and some like salmon and like yellowtail that like melted on my tongue. And I had never felt like, wow, connect. I was like, wow, I love this so much. Until that very moment, which was like a couple years ago. But like I grew up like not eating like shrimp cocktails and stuff like that because I just didn't like shrimp. But having like such fresh seafood, it was so life changing. That's why I was like, huh. I feel like you don't like something until you've had the best of it, like a good taste of it, and then you're more open to it. But yeah, that's my story on food.
And all the foods are good and delicious. If you don't feel like that's good and delicious, probably didn't get to cook in the correct way to hit your spot.
Yes. So today I made cauliflower like sesame chicken, but without the chicken.
Oh,
Um and it was so good. So good. My family ate it and they didn't even complain. I'm like, you're eating a completely plant-based meal and
Nice.
it's satisfying. So, yeah, I love playing with food and like flavors. So, that was a highlight. Okay, I'm done.
My favorite foods. I kind of have like I like so many. I like food with a lot of flavor, but then I do like food with that are light too. So I'm like I like eating anything and basically everything, and I'm slowly training my taste buds to eat green onions and cilantro because those are like the two things that I don't know why, because we grew up eating those, but I would always like pick it out
oh no,
whenever I
those are my
eat.
favorites.
Really?
Yeah.
So good.
I add cilantro and green onion every single meal, like whatever I have.
Oh,
Those can be on the side.
but I'm improving. I'm not picking them out anymore. If it's in my food, I'll eat it, but I don't like choose to eat it. Like, yeah,
When
like
you
I
have
don't crave it. But yeah, so I love Chinese food. I love Korean food, Mexican food, Indian food. My
Never had
favorite
it.
is you've never had Indian food?
mozzarella, pretty good.
Tikka
The Indian
masala
curry, yeah.
Oh, no, I haven't.
and their naan.
Garlic naan.
So good. We need to take you.
Yeah, no. Like the most that I've had it is like curry. I think it was like Japanese or Korean curry with like some Indian infusion, but not really. It was more Japanese
It's
curry.
different.
I think it's different.
I know.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Okay. So
And
I
then
should
there's like the
definitely try
Thai
it.
curries too.
It's a
Like
different color of the
plain
Thai
curry.
food.
that I learned
Oh.
because
You
I
guys are
met.
gonna kill me, but I've never had Thai food either. Other than
No.
like homemade or like you know how ASU had the like rolls, the spring rolls.
No.
No,
Like I've had those and like veggie rolls that I've made myself, but
no, you have
no.
to
That's
have like
different.
pad thai with
Pad
the
Thai.
papaya salad. There's a
No.
version.
Papaya salad, but I heard that's good.
It's really good. So if you were in California and you're in basically Thai town, there is one restaurant that I went to with my friend who's Thai, and she found it, and it is you have to eat. It's a soft shell blue crab, papaya salad with an order of pad thai, and usually you eat those together. Like you take a bite of this, and you take a bite of this.
That makes me want to go to Thailand.
Okay, when can we go?
So this is over.
How many places are on our list right now already?
It's growing
A lot.
a
It's growing by the day.
So when you guys went to Korea and like actually had Korean food actually all serve you, like do you think there's a difference between the Korean food that you actually had in Korea versus the one that you had in the US?
I think there is.
I mean, as of right now, like, okay, I wanted to go back to that one point, but like Chinese food, restaurant wise, has been very much Americanized. So it's
Oh yeah.
not Oriental authentic Asian food, because it probably wouldn't suit everyone's taste. Um,
Honestly, I think that if you go to Mexicali, which is like one of the border towns of Mexico and the US, they even have way better Chinese food. I mean, I've never tasted like authentic Chinese food, but I know that these places have been there for more than like I don't know 70 years when there was a whole like migration of like Chinese immigrants to the US, but they were like pushed down to Mexico and they all kind of settled on the border. That's why like Mexicali, there's a whole culture surrounded about around just like cachanillas, which are half Chinese, half Mexican.
Mm.
And they're
are we
so
going to Mexico? I really want to go
that
to.
food's so
Another
good.
one on the list.
I know, another one on the list, but that's such the best Chinese food I've ever had. And it's in Mexico, which is so weird. But I don't know. Yeah, that's something that I
Yeah, 'cause
wanted
the
to.
reason why I ask is because I had a Korean barbecue in China. Like I
Uh-huh.
went to both like a Korean operated Korean barbecue in China versus like a kind of Korean like influenced Korean-ish Chinese like barbecue place. Just try to adapt to a local taste a little bit, and they're different, very different.
Oh yeah, I think that even to the flavor of like I'm very special about kimchi. I'm like there is specific places that I can pinpoint in my head of places that I was in Korea that I'm like, they have the best kimchi I've ever tried. And then there's other places I'm like, their kimchi is too sweet or like it's too like it's not fresh or something like that. Like I feel like I've become a kimchi connoisseur to the point where it's like that you can taste the difference in the banchan, like how they make it. There's a special ingredient in some places, and I think that's what really makes it special or different. So I think it's just to personal taste, but I think that some of the places that like I ate at in Korea, especially when it came to down to like shabu shabu, ooh, like I can tell you my favorite place because it tastes so good. And whereas if you have it here, it's good. However, it's missing something to
I think
me.
the material or like the
Oh yeah, like the freshness of
base,
the
yeah,
ingredients and stuff.
the produces are a little different already.
Yeah, very true. Dang. But I
I'm
feel
getting
like
hungry.
what Cindy didn't even get to share. We just like interjected. We're like Thai
Wait,
food.
continue.
What
But
have
like
I
she
listed off? I was just listing off basically countries.
yeah, true.
But
But you
yeah,
said like those flavors. Mm-hmm.
it's like each country, they just have so like distinctive flavors. Like again, like curry, there's Japanese curry, there's Indian curry, there's Thai curry, but they all taste different. Um,
Mm-hmm.
what else is there? Oh, Vietnamese food.
Ah, pho.
I love
Yes,
banh mi.
banh mi.
On May.
Banh mi. Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you for correcting me. There's this place out here in Apache Junction. It's called Saigon Nom Noms or
Mm.
Saigon Noms.
I think growing up, because our family likes to cook Vietnamese food, and whenever my dad isn't working and he wants to go out, it's always Vietnamese food. So at one point, I was just like, oh, Vietnamese food again. But I think recently I've grown to like really, really enjoy Vietnamese food and just accept it. Let's go get Vietnamese food. But yeah,
I think
they're
I had
fun.
Vietnamese food for the first time with you guys.
Really?
Yeah. I remember going to Mekong, that place inside of
Got to
Mekong.
pho together? Never?
But oh wait, that wasn't my first experience with Korean food. Oh my God, I'm doing such a disservice. I had my very close friends in high school introduced me to um it was kind of like a red beef stew with eggs in it. It's a Vietnamese food. I went to their house and they like served me this beef. It was like a red beef stew with eggs in it, and then we had fish sauce, and I don't remember what else was there. Like
Pork
probably
blood?
like what?
Pork
Red
blood?
beef with eggs. Wow.
I don't think it had blood in it. But it was like meat. It was like a red, like almost chili stew that reminded me a lot of birria, which is that Mexican like beef.
I think
But
I know
it had,
what you're talking about.
it had eggs in it, and I was just like, ooh, this is so interesting. I thought it was really good. And then I also had it was just like green leaf stew type of thing. And then they gave me, I think it was like ginger coconut and like glazed nuts. It was like a snack, like a dessert thing that they had. It was so spicy because that was the first time I had ever had ginger in my life. And I was like, what is this? But so much about food. But I think we could wrap the show finally.
Yes.
So lastly, we want to wrap up the show with this one last quote that we found. It's a tweet by Valeria Maria, or Valeria_Maria 7. She tweeted this last year, and it says, someone with broken English likely knows every single word that you know, but in a different language. They literally know tens of thousands of more words than you. Think about that next time you question someone's intelligence or for struggling with the only language you know. And dang, that is so true, so special, because I feel like I definitely struggled with wanting to speak an educated English, because I didn't grow up speaking English confidently. I think I had an accent and I was very insecure about it, but it's true. I speak multiple languages now. And I think it's so special when someone actually learns a language to talk to you in your language. So, yeah, it's important to not just like look at someone, like look down on someone because they can't speak a language as well as you do. Or
And
what
all of
about
us
you?
here are bilingual.
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean, some of us speak more than
more than two,
two
yeah.
languages.
Yeah, I have a story.
I'm impressed by you guys. Oh yeah, go ahead.
So there was the time when we went to China. I remember this very distinctively. So we were, I think, getting a massage, but the person giving the massage, she was obviously Chinese, and then she was like asking me like where I was from, but this was in Chinese, of course. And at that time, my Chinese wasn't really that good, so I was speaking broken Chinese. And then she made a comment where it's like, oh, you're Chinese and you can't speak Chinese. And I just felt so embarrassed. I'm like, oh my gosh, like I felt so bad. I was like, I'm Chinese and I can't speak Chinese. And that hit me like really hard. And I think it was after that where I was like, okay, I'm gonna go back home and learn Chinese like better, even though my Chinese isn't that great right now. But I think I'm at the point where I can understand pretty well. So I think what Valeria is saying is really true, because even though they can't speak it, like they can, like people can understand.
Mm-hmm.
So
true.
It's a tool. Like I take language as a tool. Like there's never been I guess like a correct or accurate way of speaking third language, as long as the other person understand what you're saying, and everyone has an accent. So
Mm-hmm. This has happened to me too, but it was in Korean, and it was like so like just like silly. I felt so silly afterwards. So then that's when I dedicated myself to actually learning Korean, because I was like, it's important for me to do it so I'm not a fool in front of other people. But I heard this really interesting quote one day and I think I live by it in high school, and it said, like for every language it's a new window that you could see the world through. So like
Exactly.
just like it opens either the opportunity to speak to different people and get to know different cultures and stuff. So yeah, I think that's special.
Yeah. That's why kids nowadays are like, they know a whole lot of languages in a very young age. I was like,
That's
just
good. You start them young.
I know.
Well, that wraps up our show for today. If you haven't already, make sure you follow us on Spotify. If you are listening to us on Apple Podcasts, make sure you leave us a 5-star review. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram on Elbow Pod. That's ALBOE.pod. We will be also posting this recording on YouTube, so leave us a comment there.
Have a delicious day, everyone. See you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.